But yeah, Marie brought several things to show some of the biological changes. When the FCC set the safety standards, they were basing it on thermal. Hey, if it's not causing a thermal impact, therefore it's not causing any harm.
So
but
they're
they
just
are
not even
showing,
checking for the right things.
yeah, and so now that some of this biological information is coming out, you're seeing the breakdowns in DNA and some other things. So Marie, do you want to show some of your?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention something about in Germany, it's illegal to drive with a cell phone. With a cell phone, talking on a cell phone. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that they studied is they studied that when a person is exposed to these electromagnetic frequencies, that they actually have the response time of a drunk driver. So their responses, even if nobody's talking to them, so it's not the conversation that's distracting them, it's actually the microwaves that slow down their response time.
But there are so many accidents of people who are talking on their cell phones.
Yeah, and they also found that there's something about the cell phone that cuts off the peripheral vision. So
it's affecting the brain in a way that it's
exactly, in a way that they can't see cars coming up, and also in their reactions and response times.
Wow.
So they have outlawed the use of cell phones in Germany. And this is another thing that a lot of people don't think about when we were talking about Wi-Fi and cell phones and all of that. They don't think about that their car is an electromagnetic
Capsule.
Well, but it has so many. The modern cars, like a new Mercedes that comes off the line, has over 800 electromagnetic devices that are creating pollution within the car.
Oh my. Well, they're all computerized now.
Everything's computerized.
Right.
Yeah, specifically in GSP or GPS systems. I don't have one, so I might, but that also. So, so that is there, and I just wanted to mention that for people.
Oh, Marie, the other thing that brings up is they say with a child, 2 minutes on a cell phone, or cordless phone for that matter, alters their brain activity for about an hour before it returns to normal activity.
Which can cause hyperactivity and all sorts of problems. And as you mentioned, even autism. And in the developing brain, of course, their skull is much thinner. They have a more liquid in the brain.
We have some pictures here that we'll get into. And I wanted people to know that in 1994, I think it was 1994, the cell phone companies had not had any kind of research done on them when they first came out, because it wasn't something that needed research, because it was wavelengths, and they said, go ahead, put them on the market. And then they started having problems with it, and there were some lawsuits and things like that, and they came to the FDA and they said, so what's the research on these cell phones? Because people are beginning to have symptoms and cancers that were the size of the tumors.
Right over where the antenna was.
In the shape of the antenna.
Yes, like they're, just started showing up, and they asked the FDA, and the FDA said, well, let's check into that. And they went to the cell phone companies, and the cell phone companies said, well, we have lots of research. And then the FDA said, let's see the research, and they didn't have any research. So what the FDA said was, okay, you guys get it together, get research. And they hired a man named Dr. George Carlos, who was an epidemiologist, well-respected epidemiologist. And he took 4 years to do the research on the cell phones. And this is a book, Cell Phones, Invisible Hazards. I think it's Invisible Hazards in the Wireless Age.
Wow. Let's hold that up and get a good shot of that with the camera so people can see it. Dr. George Carlo. I actually watched some clips of his on YouTube.
Yes. So he thought there would just be a little bit of radiation over where the cell phone was hitting the brain. And he did 4 years worth of studies. And after the 4 years, he decided that there are some impacts that definitely are far beyond just a little bit of radiation. And if I were to read the chapters here, I'll just read the chapters and tell you some of those things. Get over here. Okay, here we go. Leak in the blood-brain barrier, lymphoma, headaches. The Mayo Clinic had studies that they did with pacemakers with cell phones and said people with pacemakers should not use cell phones. They also had genetic damage in human blood, micronuclei. In other words, the actual micronuclei in the cell was, after exposure to cell phones, started being found outside of the cell rather than in the actual cell. And it's a precursor to cancer.
Oh my.